Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. It is a spin-off of the website and book review site of Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast is about book reviews, a writer's muse, a book's peruse, author interviews, and literary news. Welcome to the new year, where new things may happen with this. I hope you all enjoy, and thank you for listening.
Good evening, listeners. I'm Amy, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Today we are joined by an author. Please introduce yourself and let the audience know how they can connect with you.
Hello, this is Syntell Smith, book award-winning author who is self-published, and I'm the author of the Call Number series, which is a trilogy at the moment, as well as one standalone novel that was just recently released out in November of last year.
You want so tell us a little bit about that book, the Redeye, right?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure I got it right.
Yeah, Redeye is, like I said, my very first standalone novel after working on the Call Numbers trilogy. I really just wanted to challenge myself to write something outside of my so-called normal element at the moment. Everybody will probably, hopefully, remember me as like that library writer or that writer that wrote about libraries all the time. So I wanted to come up with a different story that was a little more modern, and like I said, that challenged me.
Oh, that is great, because I always recommend that writers challenge themselves, try to write out of what is normal. And I must say that I read, all three of your books in the trilogy. And I enjoyed each one, and I also enjoyed Redeye. So you are an exceptional writer. And you have a way of telling and sharing the stories that are in your head, and also how it can, I don't see why, you just can keep challenging yourself and branch out. And it's okay to go back to your original trilogy and maybe add to it, but also writing something fresh and new that's different than your normal writing style or your writing genre. I think you should be commended for that, because not a lot of people and not a lot of authors will stay within their comfort zone, so to speak. So I commend you for that.
Thank you very much. And yeah, that's definitely the point. I wanted to step out of my comfort zone and write something very unique. I pretty much write stories that I feel that aren't written, that are very unique, and I actually feel that no one else has ever read before. I try to push myself to tell that type of story, whether it's something in sci-fi or fantasy or mystery or suspense. I just want to come up with something that's, very unique and that has never been told before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I read a lot, so I can say that, yeah, that is where your writing is at, interesting stories that are unpredictable, which my favorite kind, because as a writer, and sometimes you can read a book and you know how it's going to end, or even watch a movie and know how that's going to end, or who's going to be the bad guy, just because you have that talent for writing and you know how it would be written by somebody else, and then how maybe you would write it. So yeah, I completely understand, and I like that, you can just go from, one genre to the next, or you can combine them, mix a mix of genres. They always are just intriguing and making something that is just unpredictable. That's like the best story where you don't know what's going to happen until it actually happens.
Exactly. That's definitely the point that, I try to like stress with my writing. I like to feel that it's unpredictable, that you never see any of the plot twists coming, that, whatever happens is just something that's completely from left field, and somehow the story still manages to stay together and be interesting and even thought-provoking.
Oh, definitely. I totally agree with that. As one that has read all of your work, and I think it's pretty amazing. So do you have, I know some writers have, like, they have to have certain things when they sit down to write. I know, I've had writers that, they have to make sure that they use their favorite pen, or they, have to have music or something like that. Is there, when you sit down to write, do you write it on a computer? Do you write it longhand? I mean, how does your process go?
It's a mixture. I pretty much write whenever I can, so that might be like taking notes on my phone, or maybe typing something in one of my like Google Notes or something like that, Google Notepad or Google Drive, just something that's like I'll forget if I don't write it down. But most of my writing, when I actually do write, is on Microsoft Word that I try to save and keep active every now and then. I keep all my notes backed up on the cloud, and keep hardcover copies just in case. I keep an actual notebook or several notebooks with some of my notes and everything. So I pretty much use everything I can to actually write. I have a tablet, I have a phone, I use the cloud, I use my computer, I use a laptop even. Just anything that I could think of.
No,
Cause,
that's great. Yeah.
yeah, because you never know. Something might get lost and you have to try to find it again or backtrack or whatever. And you try to make sure there's a copy of it somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I was so happy when they started having where you could save stuff to a cloud, something that wasn't, um, I didn't have to worry about making backups with like burning my stuff to a CD or anything. I could just back it up on a cloud, because I've had that where my Word, the document got corrupted and I had to rewrite chapters that were all screwed up. So I, now that you can have easy ways to back something up, I love it. And I like the old school. I always bring a notebook with me wherever I go, and a pen. So if something comes to mind, I just write it down. I actually have notebooks that go back a very long time, and sometimes I revisit them because they're not always, sometimes you write down an idea for a story and or a plot line or just something really simple, and you forgot about it. But when I go back through some of the notebooks and reread them, I can say, oh yeah, I wrote this story, or no, wait a minute, I didn't write this one. So I can kind of figure out, what will work in a story. One time I was writing two short stories at the same time, and I couldn't figure out each one how it was going to go. So I combined them, and it actually worked out for me. So
Oh, wow, that's cool.
I had never done that before, but it worked. One was kind of like a prologue to the second one. So they kind of, the thinking and the idea fit. It was just two different ways. It was like an apocalyptic event of, where this guy, this, computer that was made up out of, rocks and minerals. He became self-aware and decided to, gain power from the sun, but he made an explosion in space, and the planets kind of all moved around like billiard balls, and it really screwed up the gravity and of the globe, and it was just kind of something like that. I love geology, so studying that kind of stuff and doing research, I thought it was kind of fun.
Oh, wow, that is awesome.
Thank you. So, is there, like you talked about when you get ideas, is there certain things that like kind of inspire you? I mean, I know sometimes I people watch and, not like the creepy kind of people, but, just kind of seeing how people interact with each other, and then I'll get an idea and make some notes. But, is there some things that inspire you?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Redeye itself was inspired by a song that I heard for the very first time a while ago by Kid Cudi. He's a rapper slash singer, and he had this song with the trio Haim that was, the title track called Redeye, and I just automatically create a story just from hearing the song over and over again. So it's funny, inspiration can come to you anytime from anything, whether it be like, a song lyric, a TV show, or even, any other idea that you make from, experiencing something else in life as it is. It may inspire you to actually come up with a story. So it was very interesting that I managed to just come up with this whole, I guess you could say, story of closure with this one person who had experienced a lost love, and hopefully, even though he's married and everything, he gets the idea of closure, closing that book with the former other relationship, all from just a song. And that's what makes Redeye pretty much stand out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it definitely stood out. Why don't you talk a little bit more about Redeye? Kind of give us just, you don't have to read an excerpt or anything, but just give us like, in general, what the story is about, the title character, kind of, share a little bit about the story, and without giving anything away.
Right, I'll try not to, but basically Redeye is a modern story. It takes place in 2016, and is about this, I guess you could call him like a Renaissance person.
Mm-hmm.
He does a whole myriad of different little gigs and jobs. He's a DJ, he's a stand-up comedian, he's a writer, he's a photographer. He does all these little gigs and everything because at one point in his life he was very, very overweight and managed to somehow get like the medical procedure known as the gastric bypass surgery approved for him, and he ended up losing a whole lot of weight. So he like got a new lease of life, you could say. And despite, meeting someone that he went on to marry and was also big, she ended up deciding to join him on his weight loss journey and lose the weight, I guess you could say, through the regular way, through exercise and,
Diet and all that.
Yeah, pretty much. And they've grown as a couple together, but they weren't used to all the attention they get now. Once they were like, I used the light term, they were like Mike and Molly before the show Mike and Molly.
Right.
So they were both big, and now they're both a little more attractive and thinner and everything like that. And they're not used to that actual lifestyle or the attention that they both receive.
Right.
And they've sort of come a path to, like, falling into a rut, which usually comes with married life, depending on,
Yeah.
if someone's been married for like 10, 15, almost 20 years, they could get into a rut. And they almost feel like they're passing each other by. He's too busy doing things, and she's in between jobs, and unfortunately can't find the next thing that she wants to do. So she's pretty much at home, still trying to, like, find something, but they're also being supported by her rich parents and everything like that.
Oh.
So they're on, like, two different paths, like I said, passing each other in the night, and through a weird um a weird happening of events, he happens to stumble upon someone from his past that he felt that he almost had a relationship with, but it didn't, like, go that way, and he felt heartbroken. And meeting this person again, he's, like, pretty much searching for, like, closure.
Right.
Yeah, he's trying to close that chapter on that previous relationship without compromising his current relationship. And that's where the story, takes off.
Yeah, and I can relate to that. I mean, I had gastric bypass surgery, and even though I was severely overweight, I did it more for the health benefits. If I was healthy but still overweight, I wouldn't have done it. But I had a heart attack, I had diabetes, and once the surgery was over, my everything just kind of was just manageable.
Right. Now, I wanted to ask, as someone that actually had the surgery and everything, I wanted to always ask, because most of my research, was pretty much done online or everything.
Right.
Did I get most of the details correct when it comes to referencing the bypass and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything that would have jumped out as being incorrect.
Mm.
And actually, that was going to be my next question, if you had talked to somebody who actually had it, because a lot of how you put it in the story, just it worked.
Right, it rang true.
Yes, it did. And anybody who has the surgery, there's things that they go through, and every individual, like, everybody's different, but the way things react, and how people cope with that kind of stuff, and it's different, and you get to a point where you're like, oh, I don't want to throw my fat clothes away yet, because you're in that mindset that, oh my God, I could get fat again.
Right.
And I still look at myself and say, oh, well, because I'm disabled now, I'm not as active as I used to be. But I lost 100 pounds with the surgery, and there are still doctors or people say, oh, you really have to lose more weight. I'm like, I lost 100 pounds. Doesn't that count?
Right.
So.
Some people feel like it's never enough or whatever.
Yeah.
And some other people, like, I think that term is called plateauing, where they just end up,
That's where
maybe
I'm at.
gaining, right. Maybe get some of the weight back, or they just don't feel like they lost enough, and they just get stuck.
Yeah.
They end up plateauing.
Yeah, I'm like stuck in these 10 pounds. They go up and down within these 10 pounds, and I just like, okay, I'm comfortable in my own skin now, so.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about. As long as you're comfortable where you at,
Yeah. And that's how I felt was, what matters is how I felt about myself. And when I was very large, I did not feel good about myself. I felt very uncomfortable, um, and I was shy of 300 pounds. But then I wonder how, people that were larger than me, how do they feel in their own skin?
Right.
Because, it's like I would be out of breath. I didn't like to, I would get out of breath just getting undressed, take a shower or something.
Right.
As long,
Like I said in the book, just going up a flight of steps or something like that.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
But it is about, that's why I really connected with actually all of your work, but Redeye, I connected with that because I understood the, having your life, the way people look at you, it changes when you go from heavy to thinner than you were.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh, you lost so much weight, you look so good," but then it's like, you then you you can feel bad about, oh, how did I let myself get that heavy? And, even, though you're feeling better now, you don't want to go back to what that was like. But, and then with your other stories, just being in a library and thinking of the card catalogs they used to have. I was
Yeah.
just like, oh my, I love this because that's what I remember, going to the library, doing research, looking up the card catalog, and we have this
Yeah.
a Dewey Decimal System.
I know that's why I chose to set it back in the mid 90s, which was based on some of my work experiences anyway during that time. But just that period where the library was, and it still is, a major part of the community. It's a shame that's so under fire these days, and not that that didn't happen back then, but like for different reasons.
Right.
We had to deal with book bans just like we had to now, and there was some issues with some of the events that we would hold at the library, just
Right.
like now. It's funny that, the same issues that we're going through now happened back then. And that's why I eventually plan to highlight and show in future stories of the series as it continues.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for, anti-book banning.
Right.
I understand how certain books you wouldn't want an elementary school student to read, but back when I was in high school, which was the late 80s, and the only thing that was big on banning was some of the classic books. They just didn't. We had a reading list, and that was what we were allowed to read. And
Right.
if you went outside of it, then certain books, even by the same author, but it had a word or something in it. And now it just seems they're banning books because they're about lifestyle or race or cultures, and
Right.
I think that is so ridiculous. I don't think one parent should make the decision for every parent on what their children could read.
Exactly.
Can't read. If you don't want your kid reading a certain book, then let them read a certain book. But that's up to the parent. I wouldn't want somebody to tell me what I can and cannot read, because I read mostly everything. I've read things that I didn't like, so I wouldn't read them again, but because to me they were personally disturbing, and I
Right.
have a very thick skin, but some things are just too taboo for me, even me. So, but yeah, I mean, read I love it. I mean, I read the classics. I have favorites and go-to books that I just keep going. I still have writers' resources books that I read years ago, and they're still on my shelf because there wasn't a digital book. It was, hardcover, paperback. That's
Mm.
the choice. But yeah, I mean, if you go back and you add to, your trilogy, there's a lot of stuff in the world that can inspire you just with that.
Yes, definitely. And that's the idea. I pretty much have like a set schedule. I want to release like 3 books for the trilogy, and then 3 standalones. Then 3 more books related to the series, and then 3 more standalones. Just alternating on that. And like I said, just keep challenging myself and pushing myself to think outside the box and write, you know, captivating stories, but unique stories that I feel that I've never come across before, never read before, and, hopefully will be interesting enough for someone else to read.
Do you have, are you also a reader as well? Is there certain authors that you prefer to read?
Yes, I've been a big fan of Walter Mosley and his Easy Rawlins mysteries. That series has really been a big impact on inspiring me to write, but I pretty much read whenever he comes out with a new one almost immediately. I'm still into James Patterson and Alex Cross series.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep. I'm real excited by the series that just came out by Amazon.
Yeah, no, I can't. I can't wait to start watching it. I have a list.
Yeah, and I hopefully one day I'll actually see like Easy Rawlins on the screen as well. I mean, we have the one movie that featured Denzel, Devil in the Blue Dress,
right.
but nothing else has been moved forward since that. And I feel like it's time to either see him on the TV screen, the streaming, or maybe a update or redo of the first book that hopefully leads into a movie series this time.
Yeah, that would be really great.
Yeah.
You think do you read your own work?
Oh, constantly, all the time. I read it, reread it. Yeah, people think that I would get sick of it, but the way I write, it keeps me captivated. So even when rereading it over and over again, I still feel that draw that pulls you in.
I do too, and it's like, oh wow, I wrote that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I say the same thing.
I can't believe it. So I really want to thank you for being on the show, and hope to have you again after you write your next book. I would love to have you back.
Sure.
And I'm going to just close up the show. So if you or your book want to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast. Thank you for listening. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews. If you are looking to be on the podcast or looking for a book review, you can go to amysbookshelfreviews.com and look for the appropriate navigational menu. Again, thank you all for listening and being a supporter of this podcast and of the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews, professional reviewers of books and audiobooks. Thank you all. Be safe and be well.